He said 5 words to me that I will never, ever forget. We were standing in the middle of our tiny, cramped apartment, surrounded by moving boxes. He looked at me, with absolutely no emotion in his eyes, and said, "I can't do this anymore." And by this, he didn't just mean our relationship. He meant being broke. He meant me. Fast forward 3 years, and the first message I get from him in all that time has another 5 words. "I saw you in Forbes." Funny how that works, isn't it? Funny how a man who saw 0 value in me when I had nothing suddenly saw a future when I had everything. This isn't just a story about a breakup. This is a story about how money doesn't just change your life. It exposes the people who were never really meant to be in it. Let me take you back. Before the Forbes article, before the successful company, before the life I have now, there was just me and him. Let's call him Alex. We met in college, and it was that classic storybook romance. We finished each other's sentences, had the same weird sense of humor. We really believed we were invincible together. After we graduated, we moved into a tiny apartment with mismatched furniture and huge dreams. I was trying to launch my own graphic design business from our kitchen table, and he was working a low-paying, entry-level job he absolutely hated. The first year was tough, but it felt like our struggle. We'd pool our loose change to buy a pizza on Friday nights. We'd celebrate the tiniest victories, like when I landed my first small client for $100. We were a team. At least that's what I thought. But as the months dragged on, the financial pressure started to create these little cracks in our foundation. The stress of living paycheck to paycheck is a heavy, heavy weight. It's no surprise that financial conflict is a major predictor of breakups. Looking back, we were a textbook case. It wasn't just about not having money. It was about what the lack of money represented to him. A lack of success, a lack of progress. He started making these little comments. "Are you sure this business idea is going to work?" Or, "My friend just got a huge promotion. Must be nice." They were just small digs, but they were like paper cuts that slowly bled my confidence dry. I was pulling 18-hour days, fueled by cheap coffee and a belief in my dream. But he stopped seeing the passion. He only saw the struggle. He'd see me, hunched over my laptop at 2 a.m., not as a dedicated entrepreneur, but as a liability. A dream that wasn't paying the bills nearly fast enough. Our arguments became more and more frequent, and they always circled back to money. It became a tool he used for control. When you're struggling financially, it can create a huge power imbalance in a relationship, and I felt that shift in a big way. He held his steady, even though it was small, paycheck over my head like some kind of trophy, while my dream was treated like a silly little hobby. The final fight was brutal. It was right after our landlord raised the rent and I couldn't cover the extra amount that month. "I need a partner, not a project," he said. Those words hit me like a punch to the gut. A project. That's all I was to him. The love, the history, the shared dreams, it all just evaporated in that moment, replaced by the cold, hard reality of our bank account. He packed his bags that night and left, and for 3 years there was just silence. Those next 3 years were the hardest and, honestly, the most rewarding of my life. The heartbreak was a fire that forged me into someone completely new. I poured all of that pain, all that anger, and all that desperate need to prove him wrong into my work. I took the project he abandoned and I built an empire. My little kitchen table business started to grow. I hired my first employee, then another. We moved into a small office, then a bigger one. My designs started getting noticed. We won some awards, and then we landed a massive contract with a tech giant. Success felt completely surreal. I was buying my first home, traveling, and giving myself a life I had only dreamed of. I had healed. I'd moved on. I barely even thought about Alex anymore, except as a painful memory from a life that felt like it belonged to someone else. And then, one Tuesday afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was a message request on Instagram from a name I hadn't seen in 1,000 days. Alex. My heart did this weird little flip-flop, a mix of total shock and morbid curiosity. I opened it. 5 words. I saw you in Forbes. There it was. The 30 under 30 list had just been published that morning. My team and I had celebrated with champagne at the office. It was the peak of years of sleepless nights and just relentless work, and it was, apparently, the signal for the ghost of relationships past to come knocking. I just stared at the message for a long time. There was no, "How are you?" No, "I'm sorry." Just an acknowledgement of my success, of my wealth. It was so transparent it was almost insulting. He wasn't reaching out to the woman he left in a tear-filled, box-filled apartment. He was reaching out to the woman in the glossy magazine feature. I didn't reply at first. I mean, what was there to even say? But Alex, it turns out, was persistent. A few days later, another message. "Seriously, congratulations. I always knew you had it in you." The irony was so thick I could have choked on it. He always knew? This was the same guy who told me my dream was a dead end. The same man who walked out because he couldn't handle the struggle. His words were such a blatant attempt to rewrite history, to paint himself as the supportive partner who was there from the beginning. It's a classic toxic trait, gaslighting you into believing a version of events that just never happened. Against my better judgment, I replied with a simple, "Thanks." That one word opened the floodgates. He started messaging me all the time. He'd ask about my business, faking this deep interest in the very thing he used to look down on. He'd reminisce about our good times, carefully leaving out the part where he abandoned ship when things got rough. He was testing the waters, trying to see if I was still the same naive girl he left behind. The texts became more personal. "I've been thinking about you a lot lately. I made a huge mistake. No one ever understood me the way you did." Every single message felt calculated. It was a masterclass in manipulation. He was playing on our shared history, trying to reignite an old flame, but his motivation was painfully clear. In his mind, my financial success had somehow made me worthy of his love again. It says so much about how some people's view of a partner can completely change based on their financial status. The power dynamic had flipped, and my new wealth made me attractive to him in a way my love and dedication never could. He then moved on from texts to calls. He begged me to meet him for coffee just to talk. He claimed he needed closure, that he couldn't move on without properly apologizing. I was hesitant, but there was a part of me that needed to see him, to hear it for myself. I needed to look the man who broke me in the eye and understand the absolute audacity he had to come crawling back now. We agreed to meet. We met at a cafe, neutral ground. He looked different, a little older, a little more tired around the eyes. He was laying the charm on thick, complimenting my outfit, my success, my everything. He launched into this whole monologue of regret. He told me he was young and stupid, that he was scared, that he didn't know how to handle the pressure. He said leaving me was the biggest mistake of his life. I just let him talk. I listened to his carefully rehearsed speech. He painted this picture of a man who had learned his lesson, a man who had grown. He talked about a future, about how we were meant to be. We just met at the wrong time, and then he said it. The line that confirmed every single suspicion I had. "You know," he said, leaning in like he was telling me a secret, "I was looking at houses out in the valley. We could build something incredible together now. With your business and my support, we could have it all." And that was it, the final piece of the puzzle. My business, my money, his support. I finally cut him off. "Your support?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. "What support, Alex?" "The support you showed when you called my dream a project. The support you showed when you walked out because I couldn't afford a rent increase." He actually flinched. The charming facade just cracked. "That's not fair," he stammered. I was struggling too. "We were all struggling," I said. my voice getting louder. "The difference is I stayed and I fought. You ran. You didn't believe in me when I was pouring coffee at 3 a.m. to meet a deadline. You didn't believe in me when I was crying over bills we couldn't pay. You didn't see any value in me until a magazine told you I was valuable. You don't love me, Alex. You love my success. You love the idea of what my money can do for you. You didn't come crawling back to me. You came crawling back to my bank account." The color just drained from his face. There was nothing he could say because he knew it was the truth. His interest wasn't about a genuine connection. It was just opportunism, plain and simple. I stood up, my hands shaking a little with adrenaline. "I built this life without you," I said, "and I'm damn sure going to live it without you. Goodbye, Alex." I turned and walked right out of that cafe without a single look back, leaving him just sitting there, completely exposed by his own greed. This whole experience taught me so much about self-worth and what people are really made of. Money has a funny way of holding up a mirror to someone's true character. So I want to know, have you ever been in a situation where money completely changed a relationship? Let me know your story in the comments below. And if this story hit home for you, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss what's next. Walking away from that cafe was one of the most empowering moments of my entire life. It was the final, definitive end to a chapter I thought would haunt me forever. For years, a tiny part of me held on to this secret fear that maybe he was right, that maybe I wasn't enough. But seeing him, hearing his pathetic, transparent excuses, I finally realized the truth. He wasn't the one that got away. I was the one who escaped. My story, as it turns out, isn't that unique. Financial disagreements are one of the leading causes of relationship breakdowns. It's a sad truth that for some people, a person's value is directly tied to their net worth. My experience with Alex was a brutal but necessary lesson. It taught me that someone who isn't there for you during your struggle absolutely does not deserve to be there for your success. The moral of the story isn't that money is evil. Money is just a tool. It's an amplifier. It amplifies your freedom, your opportunities, and most of all, it amplifies the true character of the people around you. It exposed Alex's opportunism, and in doing that, it showed me my own strength. I learned to build my own security, to be my own provider, and to never ever let my worth be decided by a man or a balance sheet. The life I have now is built on a foundation of my own grit and my own resilience. And the only people I allow into this life are the ones who saw the value in me long before Forbes ever did. They are the ones who are truly rich in character. And that's a currency no amount of money can ever buy.